Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 3.2, Why did the League of Nations fail to keep peace in the 1930s? The failure of the League of Nations. The outbreak of World War II in 1939 showed the League's failure to maintain international peace. The League's failure was recognized even before 1939, mainly due to its inability to secure disarmament. Importance of disarmament. President Wilson's 14 points called for arms reduction to prevent future arms race. The Treaty of Versailles and Covenant of the League of Nations committed nations to disarmament. By 1930, except Germany, no major nation had honored disarmament pledges. The World Disarmament Conference in 1932 opened with optimism under former British Foreign Secretary Arthur Henderson. Over 60 nations attended, including the USA and USSR. Preparatory commissions were during 1925 to 1931 and indicated willingness to discuss disarmaments. No agreements were achieved at this conference. Factors undermining the conference. Global depression. Economic hardship fueled fear of revolutions, and countries wanted to maintain strong military forces for internal stability. Japanese aggression in Manchuria. Japan defied the League, took Manchuria, and left the League in 1933, which shattered faith in the League's authority. Countries sought to rearm for self-protection, and USA maintained armaments to safeguard interests in East Asia. The rise of Hitler in Germany. Hitler's rise in 1933 alarmed Europe. Hitler aimed to destroy the Treaty of Versailles and rebuild German strength. European countries were unwilling to disarm in response. Hitler's demands and actions. Argued Germany was unfairly weak due to Versailles and disarmament. Demanded equal rights to rearm if others would not disarm. France refused any disarmament. Hitler withdrew Germany from the Disarmament Conference and the League in October 1933. Hitler's claims. Hitler falsely claimed Germany enthusiastically supported the League, incorrectly implied Germany willingly accepted Versailles terms, ignored guarantees from the Locarno Treaties and League memberships ensuring Germany's security, and denied Germany's responsibility for starting World War II. Consequences. Japan and Germany's exit from the League signaled its weakness. Other nations increased their armaments out of fear. The World Disarmament Conference collapsed without achieving its goals. The crisis in Manchuria from 1931 to 1933. Japan invaded Manchuria, threatening U.S. and European trading interests. China appealed to the League. The League ordered Japan to withdraw. A commission led by Lord Lytton investigated the conflict. The Lytton Report in 1932 recommended restoring Manchuria to Chinese control under League supervision. The League voted 42-1 in favor of the report. Japan was the only nation opposing. Japan refused to comply, occupied Manchuria, and withdrew from the League. Britain and France did not impose sanctions or intervene militarily. The crisis in Abyssinia in 1935 to 1936. Italy invaded Abyssinia, and Emperor Haile Selassie appealed to the League. The League condemned Italy but took limited action due to Italy's importance as an ally against Germany, the Stress Front, Mussolini's threats of war if sanctions were imposed, Britain's and France's reluctance to go to war over a distant African conflict. Britain and France secretly negotiated the Hoare-Laval Pact, proposing to partition Abyssinia in Italy's favor. Public outrage forced the withdrawal of the pact and the resignation of Hoare and Laval. The crisis in Spain, 1936 to 1939. The Spanish Republican government appealed for help against nationalist forces led by Franco. The League established the Non-Intervention Committee. Italy and Germany secretly broke the non-intervention agreement by aiding Franco. Britain and France refused to act despite clear evidence of foreign intervention. The League remained passive, further demonstrating its weakness. Japanese invasion of China in 1937. Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China. China's appeals to the League received sympathy but no real support. The main reasons for inaction were Britain and France were economically weakened by the Great Depression, and appeasement policies prioritized of winning war over confrontation. Japan acted without fear of League's reprisal. The importance of major powers' commitment. The League of Nations relied on the economic and military strength of major powers to function effectively. In the 1930s, major powers became increasingly disillusioned or self-interested, weakening the League's influence. Italy's attitude. Mussolini was never fully committed to the League, ignored the League's orders in the Corfu Incident in 1923, stayed in the League mainly for self-interest in relations with Britain and France, and withdrew from the League after sanctions over an invasion of Abyssinia in 1935. Germany's attitude. Hitler viewed the League as an extension of the Treaty of Versailles, which he despised. Germany joined the League only in 1926 after accepting the Versailles terms. Withdrew in 1933 after the failure of the World Disarmament Conference. Believed the League served British and French dominance over Europe. Japan's attitude. Initially committed to League ideals under democratic government. Became hostile under military dictatorship, which viewed the League as a barrier to imperial expansion. Withdrew from the League after its condemnation of the Manchurian invasion in 1933. The USSR's attitude. Initially excluded from the League, viewed it as a tool for Western dominance and Soviet isolation. Joined in 1934 due to rising threat from Nazi Germany. Remained critical of the League's failures, especially on collective security. Britain and France, reluctant leaders. As key powers, they were responsible for League leadership after the US refused to join. Their support waned in the 1930s as national interests took priority. Their handling of the Abyssinian crisis showed duplicity, publicly supporting sanctions while privately appeasing Mussolini. Both were unwilling to risk war or spend resources due to pacifist public opinion and the Great Depression. Impact on smaller nations. Smaller, weaker nations relied on the League for protection. The League's failure in Manchuria and Abyssinia shattered trust in collective security. Perception grew that powerful aggressors could act without consequences. Overall consequences. The League of Nations failed in disarmament and preventing aggression. By 1935, Germany, Italy, and Japan had all withdrawn. Britain and France were unwilling or unable to enforce decisions, particularly where it conflicted with national interests. The League lost credibility and effectiveness, unable to maintain peace or deter expansionist policies. That was it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!